Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this show runs through the ages. Sinners and saints, goblins and haints, but beware as they say we're contagious. Sick with the truth, we uncover the lies. We beat on the drums as they march side by side. Wake up, my dear friends, and smell that fresh roast. Last night shall no longer exist. You're here by yourself, but you're never alone, as we spin stories you'll hear in the mist. Reptilians and greys, we folk who stay hidden. Mysterious booms, archaeology forbidden. Stay away from the village, keep off of the moors. There's a lady in white and bloodstains on the floor. So sit back and relax, take the load off your feet, as we're here to amaze, entertain, and complete. You see, my name is John, and Stacy's here too, and my, do we have something in store for you. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow, with your host, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacy Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacy.
Hello.
And we are now going a little bit bonkers.
A little bit.
Just a tad. I'm finally quarantined for a few days.
Yes.
Not for very long. It's whilst me boy, you like that?
Yes.
Whilst me boy, Cody, is getting his plague test.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he's got his plague test.
He's waiting for the results.
Right, when he gets the results of the black plague test that he took. And I totally blame wrestling. Okay, if it wasn't for wrestling, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't have mass gatherings. We wouldn't have, at my house watching wrestling.
Right.
Or, paranormal shows or Oak Island or anything else that we get together and
we gather and watch.
Mass gatherings and watch. But, my dear, no fear, as I show not a surf of the Rona symptoms. I'm serious. It's the problem is, instead, my bleeding cervical spine, it's not actually bleeding. I'm trying to do, I'm a bleeding spine.
Right.
Sorry, I figured I should let people know before I start getting emails.
Yeah, really. You're internally bleeding? Should you be in the hospital?
How long's your spine been bleeding? And how is that possible? You don't know my spine. It's not like other spines. Man, I better not say that. Hillary Clinton will show up and be like, she doesn't feed on baby spine juice to stay, well, she don't stay young, does she?
I don't know. It depends how old she is.
Yeah.
I mean, she could be young in comparison.
Yeah, it's not a political affiliation thing here either. I admire it, as long as the baby's willing and signs a waiver, and it's just like, you could take a little bit. I don't know. It's a weird conspiracy, isn't it?
It is.
That one's a weird one.
Yes.
They put a little faucet on the back of, kids, and they take their spinal meningitis, whatever, make a little cocktail with it.
Yeah, to stay young.
Yeah, to stay young. Yeah, they say the Queen does it. If the Queen does it, we should all do it. I mean, she always calms me down. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Like whenever, we're not even in the country. That's how I can tell that I've somehow got the European roots.
Right.
Is because it'll be like, oh, hey, the Queen's on, it'll be broadcasting live on YouTube or something. And I'll be all nervous, have anxiety and everything about everything that's going on in the world. I'll turn on this. She'll be like, I'm just going to tell you all, it's going to be okay. Everything tea is going to be just fine. Just drink your tea at tea time and wave around and send your pervy brother out to somewhere in the forest. Preferably that Romanian forest. That's really nice. Charles, take him to the Romanian forest. And we can do what we do to people in forest. Have you ever heard what we did to the children in the Canadian forest? That was rather crazy. Sorry, I don't get to talk about conspiracies on Spaced Out Radio.
Right.
So it's made me want to talk about them really bad.
I know. It's because they said no.
Yes. Uncle Dave will not let me talk about them. But that's going to be funny this coming week, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit. I think he's testing me because this coming week, this Saturday night on Spaced Out Radio at midnight Eastern, live, we're going to have a conspiracist.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was trying to make a cute word for it. A conspiracy theorist.
There you go.
A conspiracy theory nut. you know. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
We might even tell you the guy's name later. So you're going to have to stick around if you want to know. They're like, who could it be? It's Jesse Ventura. It's really not. Or is it? You'll find out. But instead, as I was saying about my bleeding cervical spine, it's decided to carry out a full-fledged Katie bar the door, Pier 6 brawl, Donnybrook slobber knocker, and Bob's your uncle premeditated and maniacal attack on my neck. But other than that, and I do mean my entire neck, people, I can't look up. I can't look down, left, right. I can't lay down. I can't stand up. But huge old Sir Mix-a-Lot booty butt, I can sit rather perfectly in one place.
Without moving.
In my office chair. As long as I don't do anything but work, I kid you not, I believe my bosses sent me this. Whatever's going on with my neck.
Right.
It's like, you know what? I think I know how we can keep this business afloat during this crisis.
Let's make Edwards more productive.
How
can we do that?
Let's make Edwards productive 24 hours a day. How on ever earth would we do that? Do people say how on ever earth? Well, they do now because I'm an executive. Yeah, if you say it, everybody will say it. And they'll say it's smart and brilliant. Yes, they will. I'm sorry, am I putting personal stuff out here on the table again? Yeah, anyway, that's the only place I can seriously sit. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here right now in excruciating pain. Just so everybody knows, excruciating pain. So any like illegal pain medicines that anybody has, be sure to send them to. No, I'm just kidding. I've got a P.O. box for that. It's cool, and all the work I've been doing, boy howdy, I've probably got more taken care of in the last 4 or 5 days.
That's because you can't sleep from the pain.
It's funny because my people that work for me have been getting a hold of me and going, boss, you know, it's really, I really got to say, thank you. I mean, you're just doing so much. It's like I'm looking for stuff to do. Around 3 o'clock, I'm calling people, be like, hey man, you got anything going on? I mean, I have hubs and stuff, and I'm sure people know what I'm talking about, fleets. I ran the hub run the other day. It was a have to thing because one of the drivers, like, you know, got the Rona. Mm-hmm. Didn't really get the Rona. It's like when they think they got the Rona, but they got actually like the Rona, where they're just bloated or something. They're like, I can't breathe. It's because you ate 4 pounds of pasta, you fat prick. Anyway, it's just the way it works, you know. But the one thing I've figured out, though, and I'm sure you know this, mm-hmm. you can't hide from anything when you're home.
This is true. It's this one thing that I've got. I already had a lot of respect for, you know, for Stacy, and she runs our paranormal business. She runs another business that we have that's kind of like that. Yeah. She runs the household, which is like the hardest household in America to run, just because of me. And you know, it's like, hey baby, can I spend this $50 I just spent on this app? On an app? Well, it was a special on an app I was playing already, and I actually bought it 2 weeks ago. And it's like, you know, balls. But yeah, she just does so much. And then there's the children. So her and Raja just, you know, even I was trying to help Raja out. Oh my God. There's one kid, and I'm just calling them kids now. I'm not even like claiming like ownage of these kids. There's Kyler. He has no exhale without vocalization. You know, if Sasquatch was like that, case would be closed 500 years ago. I was noticing it earlier. Mm-hmm. It was like, and actually it's more like mama 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 mama. It's like, how do you guys do that? That's why we were able to tune things out. You know how you always ask me how you can talk to me and I don't hear you?
Yeah, all the time.
That's how. It's like a mom thing. You just tune it out. You just tune out all the extra noise.
Let me tell you guys something really funny, okay? So speaking of moms and their miraculous miracle ears and their selective hearing. So, you know, yeah, it's something that bothers me because I'll go through a big, long story. It actually happened earlier tonight with Raja, who's normally the one that hears me. There's some commercial on, and it's talking about, hey, it's one of the,
I think it's a Taco Bell commercial that's on right now, and it's all about the Rona, you know, and it's like, are you tired of peanut butter and jelly and macaroni and cheese? If so, I'm like, dude, really? No, who the hell is tired of peanut butter and jelly and macaroni and cheese? Listen, if you could get, and I went into this earlier, but I have to go into it now because I'm really upset of Taco Bell. All right. So we got to like plan this out, right? If I could have it in different styles, I mean, they shouldn't object to that. Like, can I have it toasted, peanut butter and jelly for lunch today? Okay, great. Can you cut it in squares tomorrow? Can I have more jelly, you know, less peanut butter? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, can I have it on wheat today? It's all different and it always tastes great.
Right.
And then with your macaroni and cheese, there's so many ways. I mean, if we could talk them in shells and cheese, shut up. I mean, it's over. I could eat macaroni and cheese and peanut butter and jelly way easier than I could eat Taco Bell every day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a good variation.
Right.
And the peanut butter and jelly is like the perfect combination of sweet and savory. To me, it's everything good about the world.
Right.
Whoever put that together, Nobel Peace Prizes must not have went back that far, because whoever put that together is the best, most brilliant person that's ever lived. Because I don't know if it happened by accident. It's like people that, you know, claim Nutella is good.
Oh, I know.
I don't get that.
I don't either. I don't really have a taste for that.
I mean, you see all the memes out there where people are just like, you know, Nutella, and I don't know. I don't know. It just, it looks disgusting to me. It's not that I've tried it, because
Right.
have you tried it?
No, but I get turned off by the hazelnut word.
There you go. It's probably a witchy thing or something. So the mom selective hearing, you know, I go through this whole thing, and about, I guess, the next commercial break on what we were watching, she points it out, and she's like, peanut butter and jelly and macaroni. And I was like, yeah, you're laughing now? She's like, what? What do you mean? I was like, that we just had that conversation. It was 5 minutes long. She's like, oh, I didn't, I thought you were talking to yourself.
So did she actually answer you during this conversation?
Yes.
Oh, she did the automatic answering. Did she just say, uh-huh?
Yeah, well, things like that. And she even gave that fake laugh of yours. That one. And it was really bad. It was like, then she accused me of monologuing. She's like, and that's how she said it. She's like, oh, I just thought you were monologuing again.
Well, you do tend to make your part of the conversation very
Just
lengthy.
Just because the word mono is in the monologue doesn't mean I'm doing it for myself, okay?
That's not what I mean. I mean, sometimes when we're having a conversation and it's one that I don't remember, it's because you've said so many things in a row that it's hard to go back and comment on any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very lengthy.
So anyway.
You're very wordy.
I was just saying that I can kind of understand a little bit of it, because I don't stop hearing the mamas. Mm-hmm. It's just nonstop, incessant mamas.
Yes.
And if you're not paying attention, it gets louder. Mm-hmm. And louder and louder and louder. And they're very nice people. So, you know, I'm nice, love my kids, but you get about 3 and it gets to that, you know, that daddy, like, you don't even have to say words. It's just like, and they're just like, whoa, they're like, mama, mama. But yeah, it's been an interesting few days. Well, I'm glad I haven't been quarantined for like weeks. Mm-hmm. There'd be some dead people up in this house. I don't know. It would either be me or you guys. And it's not because anybody's annoying either. It's just, I don't think anybody can be that stuck. You know what I mean? For so long. It's like Stacy and I are freaking dying. Mm-hmm. We go travel all the time. That's what we do. And by travel, I don't mean Cancun or Malta. We, you know, we go down the street. We go.
We're marking this plague by how many times we've missed a trip to the beach.
Yeah, I mean.
We're like, you know how many times we could have gone to the beach by now?
It's horrible. I mean, it's just horrible. It's like, I don't know. I wanted to be cautious enough for it to actually be gone. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can put up with it. But at the same time, I understand some people's pain about wanting to get out and go do things and all that stuff. And I know that a lot of that's about working and things like that. But we're growing concerned. That's the thing. We're growing concerned about football. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like there's going to be football. unless they play it in empty stadiums.
Right. I think they might be considering that.
Yeah, which is just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess they can go ask the Browns how that works. But I mean, other than that, I mean, they're going to have to consult a few people.
I know.
Just be like, hey, that's horrible. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can somebody please get the Montreal Expos on the phone? Yeah. They're actually a Major League Baseball team. That's right. Absolutely. You ever seen an Expos game?
No.
Yeah.
I don't really watch baseball.
But still, yeah, you don't stumble across those,
No, not normally.
So Saturday afternoon, that's not the game of the week normally.
No.
It's like, this Saturday, the Montreal Expos. And maybe it is for some people in your area. But there's
I find it strange that there is a baseball team in Montreal.
Well,
it's very cold up there, and it's usually hockey, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, but it's actually a storied team, and Toronto. I mean, they got.
I guess so.
The Blue Jays, man. I mean,
it's just not. I wouldn't think it'd be very popular in Canada.
It's super popular, actually. I just think they're all doing something else when the Expos play.
Oh, I guess. So.
I mean, on the games that I've seen,
right?
I'm gonna get so many Expos fans.
I know.
They're just gonna be like, and if you are riding,
they'll be nice about it though.
Please explain to me the Expos. Is that because there was a World Fair there and they had some kind of expo and that was as creative as everybody could get? I mean, they're Canadian, so you're going to apologize to me anyway. And, so Dave's listening right now.
They could have called them the Montreal Mounties.
I wish they would. It's even got that double M thing.
Yeah.
That's that I love. Paracons.
Yes.
I mean, right now, if you went to a Paracon, you could start investigating halfway through. It'd be like, where's Tim at? Oh, hold on a second. Let me turn this on. Tim, can you hear me? You bastard. I told you we shouldn't come. Concerts.
Oh, I know. All of our concerts we had tickets for got postponed.
We should have known.
Mm-hmm.
The VIP with Jericho and going to the Foo Fighters.
Right.
We should have known
something bad was going to happen, huh?
That it just can't go down like that for us. I mean, anyway. So as always, the paranormal stops for no virus, by God. Mm-hmm. A couple of weeks ago, SOR, we had a crazy power outage.
Yes.
And by SOR, it's Spaced Out Radio Saturday night, hosted by John and Stacey Edwards.
That's us.
For more information, look at spacedoutradio.com. But Uncle Dave really wants you to listen to our old episodes on the YouTube for Spaced Out Radio. And that link is in the description. So I always wanted to say that. I just always wanted to say that. So wherever you got a description, put that link, okay?
Okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, if you do listen to us on Spaced Out Radio, you noticed that it wasn't us.
Right.
And my favorite thing to that is when I get the text messages like 30 minutes into that show when it's obviously Dave. And they're like, are you guys not on tonight? Yeah. We're playing the first hour and a half from a repeat just to see who's on their toes.
Yeah. We're just checking. See who's actually listening.
Absolutely.
No, we just, everything went out around here.
Yeah. I mean,
very weird.
Just in our little area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were pretty sure it was, Satan.
Of course it was.
It's always Satan. Damn you, devil. But yeah, it was bad. It was right before we had a couple of great guests, and but that's okay because we made up for it. But I'm telling you, this guy, I say a brother from another mother a lot, but obviously there's a lot of other mothers out there that I came from. It was probably some kind of science experiment in a tube that spilled on the floor and got mixed with terrible vermin. But anyway, Brian Foreboding. Sorry, it's just Brian Bowden, but I wanted to say it all through the show and I couldn't.
Killing you, huh?
Yeah, come on, Foreboding.
He was really, really interesting.
We
didn't even get to all the topics we wanted to hit. Like, we're going to have to ask him to come back.
We didn't make it to UFOs, really.
I know, and I thought that's why we were bringing him on the show, but we ended up talking about a bunch of other stuff instead.
Dude, the nuclear lake story needs to be a movie. So you got to go out of your way to go listen to this on YouTube, on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube, link in the description. And for this specific episode, the link's in the description. How about that? Okay. So you guys go listen to this. The first 30 minutes, you're going to hear the nuclear lake story. And it's fantastic. just fantastic. It's edge of your seat kind of stuff. Really cool stuff. And because it's got a little bit of everything, I'll just tease this for you. There's little people, big hairy people, and possibly, you know, like, I don't know, big, tall, black, shadowy, flying people. So it's a little bit of everything. And it's creepy and true. So it's really worth your time, and you're going to love this guy. He's also got a podcast, or 50. And it's one of the coolest titled podcasts. It's called Inside the Goblin Universe. And you guys need to look that up because he's entertaining.
Yes.
He's not as entertaining as me, but he's right there at it. You know, don't you agree?
Yes, I do agree. And he does have a co-host on that podcast, but I don't think his co-host is as pretty as me.
No. Working on it, but no, it is not. But if you guys want to check us out on that show live, it's for the Eastern ones of y'all in the United States. It's midnight Eastern. And you can kind of figure it out from where you're at from there. Because we have all you Aussies out there and all you freaking English people and Russians and Germans and oh my. So I can't help you with that. Maybe we'll put out a tweet or something that's got all the times for everywhere we have listeners. But anyway, it's Spaced Out Radio. And this week, oh yeah, as I was talking, we're going to go freaking Wilson deep into some conspiracies. So it's going to be world of chemtrails and all that good stuff.
Yep.
You know, and I can't wait, man. That's my wheelhouse.
Yes, it
if
is.
you will. And I cannot wait. Are you excited?
I am. I'm interested to learn more about the whole chemtrail conspiracy and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not as up on it as you are.
But I mean, for us, we love, you know, we just love putting out for you guys weekly. You know, and two things happened last week, by the way.
Okay.
We didn't get to put out weekly. So we're right there at it. I mean, you didn't have to go somewhere else. Hopefully. Number one was holy crap my neck.
Right.
And number two, and this is just honest, everybody's inside right now. So nobody's doing any weird crap. Like literally, we were having to write stories based on things.
We had a couple of stories at first, and I was trying my best to make them interesting.
And she was not succeeding.
And it was not working. I did the best I could, and I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, we did the show on time. And it was...
You know, about halfway through the news, when we're both falling asleep while we're doing it, that's when we know that it's probably...
Yeah, and we've always promised.
It's probably not that great.
We've always promised we're not going to bring that kind of stuff. And so you thank the gods out there, you know, this past weekend, everything weird happened. I think everybody had a good weekend. They were like, hey, let's go raid a village or something, you know? So we had all kinds of great, crazy, weird ass news for this episode. So pretty excited about that. And by the way, it also, because of my neck, put a little delay on the YouTube vids I was talking about. We're still doing that. We still got some new t-shirt designs I have to show Stacy and get them approved and all this stuff because it's me doing it. So trust me. So this week, I got a list.
Oh, a list. Yay.
A list.
Okay.
It's like list, here comes list, here comes list.
So what is your list? That's a great song.
Thank you. My list this week is timely. It's a topical, timely ditty.
Okay.
About Jack and Diane, two American kids doing the best that they can. Jackie want to be a football star. Sorry. Jeez, I can't stop. Once you started,
you can't stop.
You really can't stop the pop. All right, so my list is really a strange one. I had too much fun doing this.
Okay.
They're so good that I couldn't number them. Okay, so it's a list of things in no particular order.
Okay.
You pick your favorite.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So governments are pretty sketchy, right?
Right.
And so I wanted to make a list, especially in these troubled economic times, right? Very uncertain times. A lot of people are out of work. We don't know what's around the corner. You know, we don't know who's going to have a job, who's not going to have a job. We're all having to stick together and hope for better times.
Right.
So during these very quarantined, lonely days, when economic uncertainty is around, the government gives us a stimulus, okay, to stimulate us. And it's doing good. It's stimulating everybody really nicely. So I started thinking, That's a lot of money just to pull out from under a rock and throw around. I started thinking maybe the government has some money they spend. I don't know. What would I say?
Frivolously?
Yeah, that's a good word. Thank you. She's my Scrabble queen. So, for things they may spend on dumb things. Mm-hmm. So I just started looking up and, doing some research and, I was going to do 5 things, but it was just too rich.
There were too many.
It was too good. Some things we fund research on.
Okay.
Some things we buy. It's more on a funding type thing.
Right.
Because if I was just doing things we buy, of course, I would get like $50,000 toilet seats.
Right.
But got a little everything here, and it's rich, so why don't we have at it?
Okay.
So I have a name for pretty much every little one. This one is just bugs. So we know that bugs love a good light, right? Am I right?
Right.
Have you, Stacy, ever wondered why?
Why bugs like light?
Yeah, have you ever wondered why?
I really have never wondered.
Better yet, have you ever wondered what our beloved bugs are actually doing by those lights?
No.
Well, apparently the government did. So not only did they wonder about bugs going to lights, mm-hmm. they spent $65,473 to find out what bugs are doing near lights.
I'm curious how that study goes.
So I kid you not, and I couldn't find the results.
Right.
But the whole thing that was funny to me mm-hmm. is like, are they Russian bugs? Watch out for that Japanese beetle. I don't know, man. So next, monkey poo.
No. Uh-oh.
The U.S. National Institute of Health gave $592,527 to fund a study with the sole purpose of explaining why chimpanzees throw their poo.
Because they think it's funny. There, give me $500,000.
Oh, excuse me. That's $592,000.
Oh, yes.
$527
yes.
U.S. currency to find out why chimpanzees throw their poop, Stacy.
Yes.
Did
they find out?
I'm not the only one
that wants to know.
Yeah, I've always wondered why these smart, incredible,
Did they ask them? Excuse me, why are you throwing your poo?
Wouldn't it be crazy? And the monkey kind of looks down at his hand and sees the poo. It's like, and just like we just bring it out of its realization that it's been pooing in its hand this whole time.
I mean, all you have to do is get a pet psychic to ask.
I don't know if they allow pet psychics near monkeys.
Yeah, but that would be so much easier.
Man, a monkey would screw with a pet psychic. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, monkeys are devious. I love monkeys. Everybody listens know that monkeys are my spirit animal. Mm-hmm. So this next one I call You're Lying.
Okay.
So the National Science Foundation got $856,000 from Uncle Sam to see if it's possible to teach a lion to walk on a treadmill.
Is there a reason why you need a lion to walk on a treadmill?
There was absolutely no reason given.
I mean, are they looking for alternate power sources?
There was no reason that I seen given, except they wanted to have lions walk on a treadmill. And I'll tell you, there was actually another study done later that I didn't put in the list mm-hmm. where they wanted to videotape lions on treadmills.
That's so weird.
So this, again, $856,000. But Stacy, I knew you would love this one, so I've got the answer for you.
Okay.
The answer is yes. You can get a lion.
I'm sure you can. You can train lions to do all kinds of things.
To walk on a treadmill. You know how long it took?
How long?
8 months.
That's it?
So I want to know what poor bastard had to train the lion to walk on the treadmill.
Was the $800 and some thousand for his medical bills?
Well, I mean,
is that what's going on?
I'm tending to think that since they didn't say trained by Harry, Mosterman,
right,
that probably there's multiple people. So,
well, I mean, I'm sure it costs a lot of money to buy a bunch of treadmills and take them out to the,
a bunch of lions,
take them out to the
willing to entertain
middle of the safari and drop them.
What are we doing? Like, you wonder why we get picked to have a plague, right?
I know.
It's like, what did we ever do? And then I look something up like this. You've got like all these scientists behind glass mm-hmm. eating a Twix bar. Like, I think he's gonna get it today. What do you think, Louie? I don't know, man. He didn't seem. Oh God. Bring in the other trainer. This next one, I've titled "Unclean and Sober."
No.
The federal government spent $2.6 million in advertising to encourage Chinese hookers to drink responsibly.
That's a very specific advertising campaign.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay?
Right.
They spent $2.6 million
Right.
to try and convince Chinese hookers in the States to drink responsibly.
I mean, I don't understand how do you make specific ads for just Chinese hookers?
I really would give anything to see the advertisements that were targeted for Chinese hookers. I would only imagine there's something playing in downtown Chinatown.
Right.
And it's like, it's like, oh, before you sucky, just something,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Before you spend $5, spend on food, no booze. Booze you lose or something. I don't know, man.
I don't know. That's weird.
Hey, I didn't fund it.
Right.
Okay. So the next one, Moroccan pot.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Federal government spent $27 million. Again, the federal government spent $27 million teaching people in Morocco to design and create pottery.
Wow. They didn't know how to do that already?
Really? What was the reason? I mean, what could we possibly be doing in Morocco where we need them to design and create pottery?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was like...
You know how far 27 million would go? Like,
apparently to Morocco.
I mean, did somebody have like a fling in Morocco and they're like, how do I get down there for a Moroccan girl? You know what? Those Moroccans are pretty bad about crafts.
They have nowhere to store their grain. It's just laying on the table.
I bet I could get stuck there for, a couple of months at least.
If I teach them how to make pottery.
So,
wow.
gnats.
Uh-oh.
The U.S. federal government spent $283,500 to create a special unit, Stacey, in the Department of Defense dedicated to monitoring gnat catchers.
What are gnat catchers?
I'm hoping that gnat catcher is like some kind of term for a ninja.
That's why I want it to be a person in like a vest. It says gnat catcher on the back. And he's got a really, really, really tiny net. Really tiny. And he puts them in a little truck in the little cages. Oh, wow.
So I'm going to read that one again. Gnats. The U.S. federal government spent $283,500 to create a special unit, a crack team, in the Department of Defense dedicated to monitoring gnat catchers.
I mean, what are gnat catchers doing that the Department of Defense has to monitor them? Is it really that dangerous of a job?
It's not even they're just monitoring. They created a special bloody unit.
Yeah, to monitor.
Oh, my God.
The gnat catchers.
Maybe
they were trying to figure out how they caught the gnats. They're like, how do you do that? It must be supernatural. We need a crack team that could be turned against the United States.
Walter!
They could use that as...
Yes, sir. I need you to go see
weapon.
these bastard-ass gnat catchers.
They're being trained as weapons.
God. Oh.
All right.
So the next one. Mm-hmm. This next one I call one quell of a drug.
Okay.
The federal government spent at least $518,000 in federal grants to study how cocaine affects the sexual behavior of Japanese quails.
Quails? Oh my goodness. Are they wasting good coke on quails? What are they doing? I don't know what purpose that would have.
Well, funny enough, it was easy to study sexual behavior of Japanese quails in the first place. So by cocaine, they wanted to see if they became looser.
Oh, I see.
More, less discriminatory.
Do they have a cocaine problem?
Is
it an issue?
I think they're a bit prudish.
Oh, I see.
So they gave them a little bump to see if it loosened them up a bit.
They should have gave him some, liquor.
I like the fact that it was Japanese quails. Like, I like the fact that they had to definitely get the Japanese quail.
Right.
Anyway, where do you think the cocaine addicted quails are?
Don't know.
It's not like it's an easy thing to get off of. And they didn't try to get their little bird brain to come down.
They let them loose, and hunters are like, I can't shoot that quail. I don't know what's wrong with him.
You find a hunter just completely bludgeoned to death. It's just like there's this little quail sitting beside him,
legends of
smoking a cigarette,
tweaking a little bit. There are legends of the Japanese quail. All right, anyway.
The first rule of Hamster Club.
No.
For more than 20 years, Northwestern University received an estimated total of $3 million to watch hamster fights. Some of the experiments involved injecting one of the hamsters with steroids and then putting him back in his little cage while introducing a new hamster into said cage to see if he more aggressively protects his home.
Oh my God.
It's as bad as it sounds.
Oh, wow.
They also had an experiment where they wanted to see if a seasoned fighter was more apt to lose his cool and beat the crap out of somebody. So when they had a little hamster go for 2 weeks of being on roids and fighting and
winning
and winning and have 2 weeks of kicking other hamsters' asses.
Right.
They would have him in there just in a normal environment with another hamster and just to see if he snaps. So 20 years, Stace.
Wow. See, I think after that amount of time, you would have hamster overlords that were sitting around the gladiator pit, making the other hamsters fight.
Yeah, I mean, can you see the new hamster coming in there? And there's the old gray hamster over there with all these bulging muscles. It's just like...
And I'm just like, what have I gotten myself into? Take me back to the pet store, please.
It's like, we're going to give you to a little girl named Stacy. I'll stay. I'll stay right here.
I'll take my chances.
You have to go back to episode 100 to find out why staying with Stacy could be worse for a hamster than being injected with steroids and forced to fight. Dude, they did this till 2015.
That's really crazy.
It was only then that animal rights activists had a problem with it. Otherwise,
one of the little hamsters that didn't get steroids escaped.
I just want to know, how long do hamsters live?
Not terribly long, I don't think.
Oh, okay, so there's not a hamster. There's not some hamster around.
No, I don't think there's some 20-year-old hamster that's been there since the beginning.
Okay.
That
This one I like to call the air down there.
Okay.
The federal government spent $800,000 to study the significance of genital washing on South African men.
I'm sorry.
The
significance?
The federal government spent $800,000 to study the significance of genital washing for South African men. I would only imagine this is something that doesn't happen. And they're just like, we want to see what happens if they wash it. I mean, what are you expecting to happen?
How do you get people for that study? Men just show up and be like, I've got to do what? No, I'm not putting water there. No.
I was imagining it was a recently divorced woman who was just like, well, I was looking through the possible things we could be working on, and this one interests me. Well, that one's from 1842. Yeah, I know, but it's still on the.
But it's time.
Yeah, we need to make a stand and find out.
Oh wow! I think the significance is it's healthy.
Yeah. I'm not going to comment anymore. So the next is rank derriere.
Uh-oh.
The Department of Agriculture spent $700,000 to study the methane gas emissions effects on the environment from cows. $700,000 to study cow farts.
Yeah, I think that one was pretty recent, wasn't it?
Well, I think we've heard about it recently.
Maybe that's what it is. Cow farts. Good Lord.
I didn't realize we were spending so much
No, me either.
I don't know the effects on the environment. I know the effects on the person that's...
Do you have to... The only way to study that is you have to capture a cow fart. How else are you going to study it? If they fart it in the air and you're not there, you're not going to be able to study it. So
was it ever actually farted at all?
Someone's going to have to stand there with a jar or something. I don't know how they do it and wait for the cow to fart.
There's nothing in this world I hope more than the fact that they stick a jar up to a cow's ass and wait.
Okay, it's probably not a jar, but you know what I mean.
It's like, it shook a little.
There has to be some sort of collecting.
It's in there then.
There has to be some sort of collection
The glass is
of the
melting.
fart.
It does that.
Wow.
Oh, I know, right? I'm sorry.
That's crazy.
This next one's called Must Have Been Furloughed. The government paid a Dartmouth professor $530,000 to create a video game with the recession theme titled Layoff. Now, there is no video game anywhere with a recession theme that I've seen titled Layoff. So I can only imagine this guy got laid off. Like, can we see the results of the... Oh, well, we just lost funding to this. You're kidding me. You do see the irony in that.
Why would they make that doesn't sound like a game. That doesn't like fun at all.
It's like Railroad Tycoon when the bank comes collecting.
Yeah, it's like play this game where you lose your job and your house and your family and you're homeless.
Yeah, maybe you just have to learn to fight on the streets, and it's like some weird, wonderful Contra game. What's it?
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm only reporting. Romance research.
Mm-hmm.
The National Endowment of the Humanities, which doesn't sound like a real thing, funded Popular Romance Project, or PRP, which sounds like a drug.
Right.
It was made to explore the fascinating, often contradictory, origins and influences of popular romance, as told in novels, films, advice books, songs, and fanfic, such as, I kid you not, Team Edward versus Team Jacob. This was spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to read fanfic and
watch movies and
try to figure out the origin of these romances and
very strange.
Why?
I have no idea. I don't know what purpose that would serve.
It's behavioral, yes, but I don't know that. Team Edward versus Team Jacob is easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's Team Edward.
I agree.
Sorry. It's a known law. This is known, Khaleesi. All right. So I'm on my last page.
All right.
So this next one, I'll just tell you, cost $3.5 million. I want to tell you before I even read it.
Oh my goodness. $3.5 million.
$3.5 million.
Okay.
And I like to call it, well, that didn't work, but at least since we have it, we could put it on warships. So... the federal government had a grant. The grant was to install solar panels on a parking garage at the Manchester-Boston airport.
Oh, okay.
There was only one issue.
Mm-hmm.
It started blinding pilots as soon as it was installed, nearly causing fatal collisions. They had to remove 25%, the 25% that blinded the freaking pilots.
Right.
Can you imagine flying in and all of a sudden it's like, ah! It's just...
They're like, why are all our planes catching on fire as they fly into the airport?
I wonder why no one thought there could be a problem with having, angled mirrors next to an airstrip.
Oh, wow. That's funny. You think they would have checked for that, for the angle of the sun and whatnot.
They research monkey poo.
Right.
All right.
And hamster fighting.
$384,000 was spent, one I like to call, look at the size of his quacker. At Yale University, they came under fire not too long ago for being funded to study the unique corkscrew-like shaped penis of male ducks. The lady that was in charge of this, they came to her in 2005, actually, and there was a big uproar The papers were involved and everything. And she defended it pretty ferociously because of the unique nature of the corkscrew penis of Dunk Junk.
Well, I have to admit that is something unusual that probably warrants study.
Does it?
But I
think we should study the psychological impact on the female duck.
Maybe.
You know? How was your first time, Nibbles? You know? I don't know. This next one I like to call college drinking study.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the fact, Stacy, that they spent $5 million.
Good Lord.
$5 million were spent to study when and who drinks on campuses. There's some surprising results. You want to hear it?
Sure, why not?
It seems people with a Greek life drink the most.
Really?
Yes.
$5 million.
$5 million. They seem to find out that fraternities and sororities, they happen to drink the most.
Wow. I never would have guessed.
They also found out with $5 million that everybody on campus tends to drink a lot on game days of football.
Oh, wow. How shocking.
Yeah.
Thank God they figured that out with their $5 million.
But they did get results.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so just to let you know, there is results. So you may want to, if you're a young college girl, you may want to think twice before you get involved with a fraternity boy.
Or go to a sporting event.
Yeah, you know, or
wow.
God forbid,
so that took
go with both.
That took like, $500, and they just threw one heck of a party.
Yeah, I mean,
with the rest of that.
All you gotta do is get a kegger, right?
Right.
It's like, hey, there's this vacant house down the street. There's a party. Pass out some flyers. I guarantee you, we could find out in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Who drinks the most?
Who drinks the most?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just that's just nuts, man. So the next one I like to call his little legs wear out.
Oh no.
$3 million, Stace.
Uh-oh.
$3 million to see how long a shrimp can run on a treadmill.
I'm sorry.
I swear to God.
Can a shrimp run on a treadmill?
So I didn't know it could happen either, but it's right there in black and white under government papers and documents that we paid $3 million to see how long a shrimp could run on a treadmill. Not if. Now, that would be one I would almost be okay with.
Right.
Hey, do you think it's possible for a shrimp to run on a treadmill?
Right. And wouldn't you think that if the shrimp could run on a treadmill, by golly, a lion could do it?
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole legs thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if those two people ever met.
Collaborated, shared their work.
It's at a bar. It's like, what do you do? I work for the government. Oh, I work for the government too. What do you do? Well, I'm research, man. Well, I'm a researcher as well. What's it on? It's boring. You wouldn't care. It's got to do with treadmills. Golly gee whizzikers. I too. I deal with lions and treadmills and lions and treadmills. I deal with shrimp. I mean, what the hell?
I want to know, where do they get treadmills for shrimp? They can't use a regular size treadmill.
From the gnat catcher.
It's these little tiny specially made treadmills. That's where all the money went. They had to make specially made treadmills that the shrimp could run on.
Somebody get me the gnat catcher.
And then the shrimp kept getting hurt, so they had to install little handles.
Do you have a little treadmill? Yeah, of course I do. It's in my little house I made. It's right next to the little sauna.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. So this next one's called Only If They Tend My Crops. $315,000 was spent by the federal government to research if playing Farmville really makes new friends. I swear to God, I read the whole thing.
Wow.
They wanted to know if playing Farmville actually created long-lasting friendships.
Okay. That's weird.
I can answer that for you.
Go, okay.
If you like being friends with Tommy Sir, your foreign buddy who tends your crops for you all the time when you're gone. That's level 9,000.
Right.
I mean, wow. All right, so this next one, damn dirty ape. $171,000 was spent to study how monkeys gamble. So, to get the monkeys to gamble, they decided to create a captivating computer game that would get monkeys' attention and would be easy enough for them to, gamble away things.
Did they have little monkey showgirls walking around?
So, with the little dress and a drink.
They have the good gambling monkey in the tuxedo.
You see the monkey with the sunglasses look over and do the big lip raise smile.
They had to discontinue the study because they started having monkey mobs and stuff.
I like how your mind works. That's taken me a long time to get your mind to that point.
I blame you.
If I could have anything, any dream job, there has been other shows where you're like, hey, what's your dream job? My new dream job is to work with the monkeys that have the gambling addiction.
Did they also rehabilitate said monkeys?
We'll find out one day. We will find out one day. Can you see them at the security right now? It look like the palms. They're just like, hold on a second. Zoom in over there on table 3, Bob. Is that damn ape again? I believe it is, sir. But he's gotten a little smarter. He's got a mustache on now. Oh,
wow.
So this next one, much like this show, I can't escape.
Okay,
this one is last because it's hard for me.
Okay.
It's a mental thing for me.
Okay.
$50,000 was paid to the National Science Foundation to make sea monkeys learn how to synchronize swim using light.
I'm sure
the results found that the sea monkeys would actually all synchronize swim following a specific light pattern.
Oh my goodness.
It was a government funded project for sea monkeys to see if they would synchronize swim. Now, what use is this, you ask? Well, I don't know. Maybe brine shrimp are going to be attacking our enemies in the future when they see a little light going through on a dolphin's butt. I don't know. The dolphin's down for it. Also probably thinking, why can't I not just be the bomb? I have a human brain. But no, I don't know. So there you go. There's my list. I wanted to come back with a humzinger.
Yes, I think you did.
Because, missing last week. And now I have way less faith in my government.
And their ability to spend our funds.
Yeah, exactly.
In an appropriate manner.
Well, if you want to know about funds, you can go to ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your place and your address to go find out everything fundage. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/ParanormalSideshow. There's all kinds of fun going on there. See what I'm doing. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97, and people have their fund bags out all over the place. On Instagram, Hot Fun Damn, it's John and Stacey Edwards. And on Patreon, if you want to support something better than monkey poo studies, support us. We're way better than monkey poo. Well, not really. Nothing's better than monkey poo, but by God, we got the gnat catcher beat.
I think we're better than synchronized swimming brine shrimp.
So, John and Stacey Edwards, it's easy to find. Patreon.com/John and Stacey Edwards. There's all kinds of new goodies and new things and new levels we're doing that you got to check out. We got a lot of things going on, a lot of fun, a lot of games, a lot of monkey gambling. But, also check us out on spacedoutradio.com every Saturday night at midnight Eastern time. And that's some other time Pacific. So you can check it. But if you're like one of our fans in Australia and London and all those good places, you're on your own, buddy, because I don't look that up. But we love you very much. And it's now time, speaking of love, fun, and duck penises, for Stacey Edwards and some paranormal news.
Coming to you direct from the Sideshow Intercontinental Center for Strange Events and Odd Irregularities, she's more stealthy than a Cold War era spy. If it's from beyond the grave or above the sky, there's only one girl who looks under every rock to see. She's got your mysterious goodies and spells Stacy with an E. It's now time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's.
All right, so this first couple of stories is about...
I want it to be like Gonzo. You know,
you
like
in a gong or something?
well, no, like you know how on every episode of the Muppet Show it was something different.
Well, yeah, didn't he always try to like blow a horn or hit a gong or something?
He would do something or
and it would not do right.
finger a chicken, whatever. He would. Oh wow, I did not mean for that to sound like that.
He did have an unusual affinity for chickens.
Well, that wasn't what I meant though.
Right.
I meant like like fingering the chicken's butt, like just real quickly.
Yeah, that's not better.
Okay. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking. And if you don't know because you're too young to know about Muppets, then good Lord. Go find The Muppet Show.
The original with the actual puppets.
Watch the whole thing. I don't care if you don't know who Sandy Duncan is. It don't matter. Just go watch it. All right.
All right. So the first couple of stories I'm going to talk about are about UFO sightings because it seems that lately UFO sightings have increased, which is kind of odd considering most people are supposed to be inside, and not
Does
out.
that include the aliens?
Looking for, I guess not.
I didn't know if that's what you're implying.
Well, this one particular article is talking specifically about Belgium. Even though Belgians, are under lockdown, stuck at home, there have been tons of UFO reports. And it says that there's been 87 reports of potential alien spaceships during March in Belgium.
Wow.
And most of them came from Flanders. And there's like 188 in the first 3 months of the year. So from March 28th to April 1st, more than 50 Belgians in Flanders reported a row of moving lights from like west to east.
Wow.
And that kind of really strange formations also been seen in other countries across the planet. Now, I do want to put in here a little note that there was a deal with the Starlink satellites. Elon Musk and SpaceX, they launched I think it's the final launch for their Starlink constellation, trying to do the whole broadband across the world thing. And when those were launched, they did look like a row of lights. If you happen to see them, going up.
Actually, you can go to MUFON.com and look at the front page right now. About halfway down the page, it shows Elon's, row of starlights.
Right.
And says, if you see this, you do not need to report it.
Right.
They must have had a blue million reports of that.
I'm sure, because who expects to look outside and see a big row of, lights in the sky? However, that can't explain everything that I've been seeing, because I also have this other report from right around the same time from Detroit. And we had a video of this, and it was from April 3rd. And there were a lot of lights in the sky, and it lasted for a little while. People in the video were very surprised. You could tell by their language. And then on April 4th, there was like a very similar video from Cleveland. Now, and people were commenting on these videos, and on the one in Cleveland, someone had said they saw the exact same thing in Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. And someone in Missouri said that they had seen something similar to that.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of different areas, and they're not all Starlink. Now, when the Starlink satellites went up, you could see them, I think, until they were in orbit. And then it's not like you could see them in the sky anymore. And they haven't launched anything in weeks, because once they did their last launch,
we were already locked down when these happened, like you said.
Right. And we watched the videos for these ones in Detroit and Cleveland. Now, the Detroit one, it's iffy. It looked like it maybe possibly could have been Chinese lanterns.
It really did.
Yeah.
Just because Stacy and I, this sounds silly, but we had to do it, as a trial, because you always hear people say, well, it could be Chinese lanterns or whatever. We actually went and set off Chinese lanterns, and a few of them. And the thing was, we couldn't set them off that quickly. Like,
Right, you would have to have a lot of people
Yeah.
in one area to set off as many as we saw in this video, which you weren't supposed to be doing. There
Right.
weren't supposed to be people
No
like
mass
that.
gatherings.
Exactly. Now, the one in Cleveland was not like that. Like,
No.
it didn't look like Chinese lanterns coming off the ground. They were in the sky. They were very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange. So,
it was, I mean, I'll just say the Cleveland one was really good UFO sighting. Mm-hmm. And Detroit, to me, there was just too much that it could have
too
been.
much iffy in there.
Yeah, that you couldn't really use it. But yeah, we're seeing sightings everywhere. And, you know, a lot of times we don't include those until we do get the YouTube thing going. That's one of the reasons we're wanting to do that, is just so, because we get so many sightings sent to us.
Right. And we'd like to be able to share them instead of just
Yeah.
going, there's this cool video.
Right. I mean, some of them are really spectacular. And it seems here recently,
Right.
there's been some good daytime ones. Stacy loves the daytime ones. She loves the, you know, she won't even watch the ones of a little ball of light.
Right.
Because she is that hardcore on it, just like EVPs. If it's something, it could be saying, okay, here's the secrets to North Shore. And I'll let her hear it, and she'll be like, what? What? No. And no, not unless the Pope can hear it. And the Pope says, oh, yeah, that's it, rips off the collar and goes on. I'm like, okay, God, you're hardcore. But
Well, along with this increase in UFO sightings, this one particular article, the first one I mentioned from Belgium, talked about also an incident that happened where they had reports of fireballs in the sky. And a couple of them like within an hour of each other, which is very crazy. So they had 2 fireballs just 1 hour apart, and this was on April 1st, and they were caught on several different cameras. And then a few hours later, there was another fireball that streaked across the skies in Germany, which is, you know, just the neighboring country. And nobody was really sure exactly what the fireballs were. They were tracked by the Belgian UFO Reporting Center. And when they did the tracking on them, since they, you know, had the recorded data, they claimed that they both appear to have like parallel trails, like they were going exactly the same
that don't happen.
kind of direction. So it's really very strange. And it's funny because I've had this article for a little while, and then the other day I found this other article from England where someone saw a very mysterious flaming object over England. And I actually have a picture of this one because it's really odd. Now, this was over Cambridgeshire, England, and it was spotted by a man named Jerry Underwood, and he took some pictures of it because he said that it appeared to have this thick chemtrail but with flames coming out of the back of it, and it was like spiraling. And it's very strange. I'm going to show you the picture here because it doesn't really look like anything that I've ever seen.
No, that's weird.
Very strange. It's not like a normal fireball, and they kind of dismissed it as being like a meteorite or something like that because a meteorite would go very quickly, and this particular mysterious object was in full view for about 10 to 20 minutes. Like, it just took forever to get across the sky.
Well, you know, I was thinking about all this. I knew you'd been working on this UFO thing because we've been seeing so many of them. I just found something the other day, and it really intrigued me because of your other segment you do on Spaced Out Radio, There's Something Strange About This Week.
Right.
Where Stacy on Saturday night will tell you Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of every day something weird that's happened. If there is something every day, at least
right.
the most strange events coming up, anniversaries of. And there was one that was missed because it's not out there like that. But it's one of the most amazing stories of ufology ever to me. And it's not the only one. Like, a few years later, I think 5 years later, there was another one like it. But I want to talk about, because it just passed. Like, we just passed the April 14th mark.
Right.
It was April 14th, 1561, around dawn. And, you know, most people probably getting up in 1561 to go 10 crops or, you know, whatever, right?
Right.
So in the sky, there was a incredible battle. There was a freaking space war. There was in the sky above them, and it was leaving the people alone.
Right.
But what the craziest thing to it, it's actually in the newspaper, so to speak, of the time, which was, you know, broadsheet illustrated woodcut engraving. So the woodcuts, and there's a woodcut for the other event too, but the one in Nuremberg is the one that really gets me the most, because on the woodcut engraving, it has what they claim to have seen. The broadsheet claims that witnesses observed hundreds of spheres, cylinders, and other odd-shaped objects that moved erratically overhead. The broadsheet describes objects of various shapes, including crosses, globes, 2 lunar crescents, a black sphere, and tubular objects, from which several smaller round objects emerged and darted around the sky at dawn. Now think about that for a moment. This has been around. This story's been around since 1561, and that's exactly what we see when we're spotting UFOs today. We'll see the one big one, and we'll see all the little orbs come off of it. I do believe that one of the released videos from the Pentagon had one of the UFOs with, little orbs coming off of it or whatever. It's a normal thing, if there is such a thing of normal,
right,
in the UFO field. That blows me away. I forget about it sometimes. A couple years go by, I come across it again, and I'm like, holy crap, look at that picture and tell me that we haven't had this going on. And the cool thing, the aliens knew there wasn't mass media, and there was going to be this one little town, and no one was going to know anything about it.
Right.
But
there wasn't going to be anything else flying around in the sky.
Right. And I think that really gives that there's different races. I really do, because I used to go back and forth because we have different style. People have always said, well, there's different vehicles, so there's different aliens, and I'm like, you know what? I've got big planes and little planes, and stuff that doesn't look enough alike,
right?
That it couldn't be. You just don't know, and but I really do believe in several races, good races, bad races. The more we've got into this over the years, and the more stuff we know, we do. Stacy and I totally buy the reptilians. The grays, the tall whites, especially.
Right.
That's its own story that'll come out someday. But what do you think about it? I found it freaking incredible.
And when you see the woodcut, it really makes it real, because it's not like they're going to make that up.
Right.
And, we saw this story. They talked about it on Ancient Aliens recently. And we were like, wow, look, they're talking about the woodcuts, and we thought it was interesting. We started talking about it, and we went back to an older episode where they were talking about ley lines and all these different ancient carvings and things. And this one guy went to, and I apologize, I don't have this right in front of me, but this one guy went to this park where they had the alien astronaut looking carvings in the rocks.
Right, in Italy.
And they had this weird symbol above these alien things that looked like a cross.
Yes.
And it was like some dots, and it was like this weird cross shape, and the guy was like, maybe that's a UFO. And at the time we were like, I don't know, you don't really hear about cross-shaped UFOs, but in this woodcut, a lot of the UFOs are cross-shaped.
Yeah, it's got everything that's common to us right now, and then it's got those cross-shaped ones. So
it's very strange.
Possibly they got eradicated or something.
You never know. There was a war, clearly.
Yeah. So anyway, just cool. Sorry to interrupt on that, but
that's okay. I was basically done with the story. I was showing you the weird fireball that was spirally, and I thought this one was interesting because the National Space Academy offered a possible theory. They suggested that perhaps the trail was just a contrail from a high-altitude jet, and that the orange colors were just the reflection of the sun rays from the setting sun, and the twisting motion was because of wind. They came up with all these reasons why it looked like that, which I suppose could all be true.
It really could.
But there's this other report from Hull on a different night where someone claims that they saw a bright orange object moving slowly over the sky, leaving a trail in its wake. That was bright orange before disappearing.
Well,
So,
we didn't grab it, but April 1st, you know who else had a orange light they seen going across the sky?
Who's that?
Tom DeLonge.
That's right. And he filmed it.
Yeah, he filmed it, put it on his Instagram.
Yeah.
And, so we had talked about how we hadn't heard anything from him in a while. And then the next thing we do hear from him is a UFO sighting.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just a lot of weird things going on in the sky. And I just wanted to kind of point them all out, how they all were sort of a little bit similar. So
it's okay, though, because here soon, with the YouTube stuff, you're going to get something crazy. You'll probably get the John and Stacy look at the moon for 5 hours live. We're getting our hands on a nice little camera to watch the moon. We're so tired of watching other people's videos
of the moon.
Yeah, of the moon. We're like, we could just get this ourselves.
Right, we could just buy that camera and look at it ourselves whenever we wanted.
And just live stream with you guys and, see who sees what.
That'd be fun. All right, so let's move on to this next story. And this is a story about NASA. And every year NASA has this incubator program. And the program funds the development of like far-reaching, long-term, advanced concepts of, that think outside the box.
Right.
And it's sort of like a grant, kind of a competition where people send their ideas and then they, pick specific ones every year to fund. And it's like 3 phases. The first phase is like $125,000. And if you get picked, then you use the money to continue to develop your idea and then see if you get picked for phase 2, etc.
Right.
So I just wanted to point out this one. I thought it was really exciting and I hope that it moves on through all the phases, but it did get picked for phase 1. And it's called the Lunar Crater Radio Telescope.
Oh, wow.
And it's an idea by a robotics technologist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And his idea is to turn a suitable existing lunar crater, one on the far side of the moon, into a reflecting dish and use it as a radio telescope from the moon.
Jeez.
Which I think is a fantastic idea. And not only has he come up with this telescope idea, but he's also developing an idea of how it could be built, and not very expensively. Like he wants to use these robots, these dual-axle robots, to drape like a wire mesh in the crater, and that way there's not a huge payload. You don't have to send a lot of people up there to like construct this thing. And even further into that idea, he eventually wants to build more than one, so it would, they could link them together, and it would make a very long baseline interferometry kind of system. And that's where you sort of link them all together so that you can see even further. And they use this technology on Earth. That's how they got the picture of the black hole recently.
Right.
So, it's really radical concept, but it would be better to see things from the far side of the moon because you wouldn't have any interference from Earth or anything.
There is so much interference that they're having to go through. And the crazy thing about that, it's radio interference. It's, just the atmosphere itself,
right?
Which you don't have to worry about on the moon,
right?
Really, and it's really crazy thinking about how much better it's going to look. It's basically the difference in going out into the country to look at the stars and looking at the stars in downtown Manhattan.
Right. And could you imagine all the different sounds and signals, the whole fast radio burst thing?
Yeah.
Imagine what you could get that much further out into space.
You do remember the transcripts from the astronauts when they did go around the dark side of the moon, and they said, it's like famously, do you hear that music? And it's really crazy because NASA, when they come back in, when it's radio's back, because, you go radio silent when you're back there,
right.
Which is scary to me. It always has been.
Right.
I can read that story a million times and I'm terrified. But when they come back, it's just like, oh, yeah, Bob over here Bob, turn that off. He was playing Pink Floyd. He thought it'd be funny. And, it was something stupid. But
all right. Well, let's move on. We'll get away from the space type stuff, and let's talk about a book that people are saying is a quote prophetic book that saw this whole pandemic plague thing coming.
I know that book. Revelation.
No, although that would be more noteworthy than this probably.
Oh, okay.
So this is a book by Salima Nawaz. It's called Songs for the End of the World. And the book is about a 2020 pandemic that starts in China, surges through New York, and infects thousands of people. And that there are like anti-Asian hate crimes and food deliveries, and the N95 masks and ventilators are scarce, and anyone entering a hospital has to get their temperature checked. And in the book, there's even a book about plagues that becomes a bestseller before the plague happens. So the weird thing about this book, though, that I found when I read this, because they're pushing it like, she's written this book before all this happened, but the book just came out.
Yeah.
In April. And if you look it up online on like Goodreads, it claims that it wasn't supposed to come out until August. But miraculously now it's out in the middle of April.
Something else weird about that. Normally when you're doing a book,
right,
and it's about something in the future, so it could scare people a little bit, they'll put like 2025.
Right.
Not a book that's going to come out in August about this year.
Right. Like I'm going to write a book about 2020 and I want it to come out at the end of 2020.
How dumb is that?
Yeah. So I'm not guessing.
It was already happening in China in December.
It was. And, she did claim that she's not prophetic, that she just studied pandemics a lot to write this book. She claims that it took her 6 years to write it. But, that's just what she says. It could have took her 2 weeks. You never know.
It could have, but, we let you decide, so we just go with what they say. So that's cool, right? So there is another book And this book got my attention because people were making it the #1 bestseller.
Okay.
And it was published in 1981.
Right.
Okay. That doesn't happen very often.
Right.
But it's the #1 bestseller when we were going into April in the fiction charts.
Okay.
It's called The Eyes of Darkness. And what really got my attention about this, as funny as it is I seen a CNN and a Snopes story both saying, this does not predict the virus. And I was like, oh, God. It must predict the virus because
right.
I don't trust either one of those very much. And so, going and looking it up, basically the big thing that happened that got people buzzing in the Twitterverse was it's the story of a mother searching for her son whom she was misinformed was dead. The book describes a virus which originates in Wuhan, China. And the reason people were freaking out is because, of course, that's where COVID-19 originated.
Right.
And last month, Nick Hinton tweeted about the Kuntz book, highlighting a passage which reads, they call the stuff Wuhan 400 because it was developed at their rDNA labs outside the city of Wuhan.
Wow, so that's a Dean Kuntz book.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so let me just give you another one then. That's kind of funny. It's not eerily similar.
Right.
But it is about a pandemic, and it's a Stephen King book. Because, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and it's The Stand. Came out in 1978. And the whole premise of The Stand is about this man that escapes from a biological weapon facility after an accident, and he's carrying with him a deadly virus, and I think in the book it's known as Captain Trips. And it's like a rapidly mutating flu, and it wipes out most of the world's population. So it is about a pandemic. It's not like China or eerily similar, but it is a book about a pandemic. That's a flu that wipes out a lot of people. One thing I like about that book is the antagonist in the book is Randall Flagg, which is like a guy that he uses in several of his stories. Like it's his ultimate bad guy. But this is his first appearance in The Stand. So, but it does get kind of post-apocalyptic where you have to choose sides and it's good versus evil and all that. So, but Dean Kuntz is a very similar writer, and his book came out 3 years after Stephen King's book.
Yeah, except he gave accurate information.
He did. He gave very specific information. It wasn't as. I
mean, people can say what they want and be like, "Oh, this doesn't." I mean, it says a freaking lab outside of. I know everybody's kissing China's butt, but dude. Come on, right?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird.
It's weird.
Well, both of those are definitely more prophetic than whatever just came out.
Than the one I'm going to write one next year about 2021.
That wasn't supposed to come out until August, but mysteriously was pushed up the publication ladder there.
Come on, man, it's a work.
All right, so let's go on to something very strange that happened in Colombia, and they're calling this the Jesus tree. So residents of a village.
Sounds like an alt band from 1992. It's like next on 120 Minutes, the Jesus Tree with Mercy, Mercy Me. Mercy, mercy me. I love the tree. How now? Come on.
All right. Residents of a village in Colombia flocked around this tree in wonder and reverence when they noticed that it bore an uncanny resemblance to Jesus Christ on the cross. This happened just a few days after the country announced a nationwide lockdown. So people all broke quarantine to go and gather around this tree so that they could see it once they heard that you could see Jesus in this tree. And it's really a strange, I've got a picture of it here for you because I want you to see what they were seeing because they did take pictures of it. Okay, so here's the picture of the tree with the image of Jesus on it.
Holy crap.
So here's the really weird thing. Somebody went back, the police had to come in and break everybody up and be like, you can't be congregating here. It became like a pilgrimage point.
Somebody threw a spear inside the tree.
People were leaving candles and offerings and, traveling to see it. And they were like, you need to go home. It's a lockdown. So someone did get out and take a picture of the tree the next day. And this is what the tree actually looks like. Yeah, so it's very strange. Now, this is the first picture when they saw Jesus. It was at night. And this other picture looks like it's during the day.
Give me this.
But there's not any reason why you should see that image. There's a little bit of marking on the tree, but not enough for you to see that at night. Isn't that strange?
At night.
Yeah, at night.
Yeah, I mean, it's even got the little holes here. And I mean, that's
the little loincloth and everything.
That's the tree. I'm not talking about the little holes on him. Good Lord. I'm talking about on the tree.
I know.
Which that's, oh my God. Lord, I apologize for the woman I married. So this is an apparition.
Isn't it very strange?
It's an apparition.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who it is. It's Satan.
He's luring people out of their homes. So
Well,
they
I
can get
mean,
sick.
okay, look. They didn't have Polaroids.
Right.
The rendition of Jesus that we see is nothing like what Jesus looked like. All right? It would look more like the owner of the local 7-Eleven was tied to a tree. Okay? It was not. That's not what Jesus looked like.
Right.
And I know it's pleasant and all this stuff, but it's like the Shroud of Turin. It's like, wow, they found the sheet that looks just like the artist rendition from 1,000 years later
Of the white Jesus.
of the white Jesus. I mean, it's just some of that stuff is just
It's very strange.
yeah, and it's subjective too. I understand that.
It is. And some people are like, oh, it's just the way the lights are shining on the tree. But if that's true, then you would see it all the time.
But here,
and
I
not
will
just
say
at night.
this, okay? If I was the savior and I would put the accepted version.
Right, the one that people would recognize. Otherwise, people would be like, why is that guy dressed like Jesus?
Yeah. I mean, Virgin Mary, right?
Right.
I would put that out exactly the way people see it and the way people want to see it.
Right.
But whatever's happening there, and the reason I said it was Satan, I wasn't being funny, was because, what if the devil had, I mean, we're talking about religion right now, so I'm just going to go there.
Right.
What if the devil wanted to kill a bunch of people?
Right. He wanted them to start spreading that virus around.
Right. So they're staying inside. There's a lockdown. Oh crap! What am I going to do? I know. We're in freaking Colombia. That's easy enough. Let's throw Jesus on a tree.
And people will come and see.
He's got an affinity for trees anyway, and luring people into bad decisions. So I don't know.
All right. Well, let's move on to some discoveries.
I'm still stuck in the holes thing.
I didn't say anything about
I was like, it's even got the holes, and you're like, yeah, in the loincloth. It's just so you can't backtrack off that. That, my friend, is a highlight. That is a highlight. And just so you guys know, we do a lot of anniversary stuff. We do our anniversary every year on the show is a special show. We do, every 100 episodes is a special one, which we just passed. And, like every year when we had our first episode or whatever ever of back all the way with Haunted South. And that's usually the anniversary we use. But just so you guys know, this past week we passed, since the name change, our 4th anniversary. So
of the Paranormal.
What the
Of
what
the
hell
something,
Jesus,
I don't know.
Jesus is messing with your
The Paranormal.
yeah, you're done, sister.
The Paranormal Sideshow. Whatever this thing is we're doing here.
Yeah, if Stacy turns to salt before this is over.
All right. So let's move on to some discoveries, shall we?
Yeah, let's.
All right. So this one's from London. And it is a stunning archaeological find that reveals that London is 3,000 years older than previously thought.
Well, you're going to have to explain that one.
So an archaeological find that's just 15 meters outside the boundary of the northern edge of like the historic city of London. They've unearthed evidence of a prehistoric ceremonial site.
Wow.
And they claim that it might have been home to a popular assembly for major events and rituals in the 4th millennium BC.
Wow.
And so they claim that this find puts the existence of London back 37 centuries.
Wow.
I don't know why you count time in centuries like that, but long time.
Let me ask you a question. What exactly happened in the the 3,000 years now that they don't know of?
They don't know because, there's this whole gap in like London's prehistory that they don't really know that much about. And they said that this sort of helps fill in that critical gap. It was, already occupied by the Roman conquest and all that. And so, and what they found is they found some cooking pots and other such utensils. And they claim that these pots were used for like processing milk and to make stew and things like that. But it's really a very significant find.
People often talk about, now, number one, guys, do you know what a big deal that is, what she just said? They just dated London back 3,000 years earlier. But I have to go on a sidetrack here.
Okay.
People will ask you sometimes, and especially like time machine movies, or sometimes it's just a question, right? You get people just asking you random weird questions. What would you do if? So a lot of times they're like, well, if you could go back in time, what's one thing you would do? I would think the most popular answer is, kill Hitler, right? Mm-hmm. Before you could do anything. Let me tell you what you should do.
What's that?
Wipe out the Romans. Like, somebody needs to go back and at least, build a big wall around their freaking city.
Keep them all in there.
And keep them all in there. They messed up more civilizations. Mm-hmm. I mean, they got a good thing going with the Spanish. I think there's a good, the Spanish just came and gave diseases to everybody and wiped out civilizations. But, I mean, every time it's like, well, there was this and there was that and there was all this gold, but it's all gone because it's just
Rome.
Because of Rome. The people, historians are just like, well, it was Rome. I mean, it's just nuts to me. What did they do with all the stuff?
I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
they just took it back to Rome, and
we need to go to Rome and just start digging. Just level the
like piles of stuff somewhere.
Level the city and just keep taking. I'm telling you, man, my archaeological crew, when I become a trillionaire,
right,
is going to be. We're going to go to Egypt and Rome, and you guys better know I'm going to give you nice little plots of land somewhere in Siberia, and you can farm. But we're just going to start, and we're going to take the whole top layer, like 20 feet. Mm-hmm. We're going to see what all we find. Okay, cool. That's about 5,000 years ago. I don't care. Throw it, break it. We're going to keep going until we get to like 30,000, 40,000.
Right.
Anyway, it's all there.
I mean, maybe. I'm sure it's somewhere.
Yeah, anyway.
All right, so let's continue and talk about something else that was found in England. This is a discovery that was made by railroad workers when they were surveying the aftermath of a landslide. And it was kind of near a tunnel going through a hill in England. And they were stunned to discover that the event inadvertently revealed a mysterious cave. Ooh. That experts believe was once a medieval shrine.
Oh, wow.
The find was reportedly made in the town of Guildford, and it was comprised of a series of small chambers that may have once been part of a larger system of caverns that were likely destroyed when the railroad was carved into the hill. And so they had an archaeologist come to examine the site, and they identified several markings and like evidence of writing, which suggests it was probably used by people living in the area around the 14th century. And they said since that specific location in the distant past was known as the Hill of the Dragon, then it's also theorized that perhaps the cave dates back to that era and was like the site of cult activity.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
It's freaking awesome.
And they said that the newfound cavern also contains soot and fire pits, which they hope to, do radiocarbon testing on in order to determine, a really specific date for the shrine.
The Hill of the Dragon.
Yeah, they're really, really excited about it, and they're hoping to preserve the site as best as they can while, it all gets documented and studied. And I thought that this article was really interesting because apparently the railway has discovered quite a few interesting things, just in their daily refurbishing and, redoing the railroad, because it's been there a long time.
Yeah.
And so I was just going to point out a couple of things. They listed like 6 or 7 things. I was just going to point out a few of them because I thought they were really interesting. Okay. And one of them is this Victorian roundhouse. It was unearthed in Birmingham, and it's thought to be the world's oldest railway roundhouse, which is just amazing. They also unearthed these workshops by this man named Isambard Kingdom Brunel, and he had these engineering workshops, and he was considered an engineering genius, and he had this thing called the Great Western Railway, and it was designed for like speed and efficiency, and he had like early steam-powered turntables that were built to accommodate a wide gauge tracks, and they uncovered like several important buildings that were thought to be his workshops, which they had no idea were there. They uncovered what they think is the first settlement at London Bridge that supposedly dates back to 59 AD to 83 AD.
That's amazing.
That's how they dated like timber piles from trees that had been felled in the area. And they just found that when they were doing a transformation at London Bridge Station. And they found a medieval wall and floor fragments that may have been part of some of the larger houses in the area. So they thought that was really, really cool. They found like kilns for making clay tobacco pipes that dated to the 16th to 18th centuries. All from that one renovation. And speaking of Romans, they did find a major Roman find at the Borough Viaduct. And they found traces of early Roman military occupation, but they also found a Roman bathhouse under a Borough High Street that was previously unknown. They didn't even know it was there. And they found like also the remains of more houses belonging to like important medieval clerics and things like that. So anytime they go to like do any sort of updating or digging, or in this case of this story, a landslide, you know, something historical and amazing just seems to turn up all the time.
That's the whole thing, man. Under your feet. It's just, I mean, so much. I mean, there's just so much there. I don't care where you're at in the world. You know, I firmly believe you can go look at things like Serpent Mound in the United States, and you know, you can see that there was so much more. You know, at another time. So, if ice didn't cover you, there is quite a bit out there to find.
Exactly. Well, let's move on. And speaking of mounds, let's talk about the Nazca lines. It's kind of similar. So this is a story about a YouTube user, and his channel goes by the name CFApps7865.
And I've been subscribed forever.
And he does this thing where he looks on Google Earth and he finds things that are fairly interesting. Now, this isn't like people that look at, you know, pictures of Mars and see, you know, monkeys riding motorcycles.
No, this guy guy's really cool, man. I've been a subscriber for about as long as he's had a channel, I think, and I watch it all the time. And now he is not putting a lot of razzle-pizzazz on there.
No, he basically just shows you what he finds
and
how to find it, and you just make up your mind yourself. But so far, stuff that he finds is really compelling. So this particular story is about something that he found right above where the Nazca lines are. And it says just northeast, on the mountain, just northeast of the lines, he discovered some strange stone circles and a large curved mound in the shape of possibly a serpent. And now the most interesting thing is the stone circles, because when you look at it, they are very large. They're like the size of a football field, like between 100 yards and 130 yards long and between 50 and 100 yards wide. And they're at an elevation of about 10,000 feet. They're literally on top of these mountains. Like you can tell that you're at the very top. And as you look, there are all these stone circles, and they're everywhere. He scrolls around all over the place, and they're just scattered out all around. And he comments that possibly they're similar to some South African structures that have been identified as ancient livestock corrals known as Blaubuschgraal stone ruins. Now, he's not saying that's what they are. He's just saying that it reminds him of what those look like. Now, those particular stone ruins have two theories of origin. One is that they were made by European settlers, in the 1600s to use as corrals. And, they may have also been there before and were used by, the local people to, do rituals or keep animals. But, it's not really a place you would consider animals being kept.
Right.
Like, it's not in a very easily accessible type area.
Right.
It's the top of a mountain. There's nothing around. It's very strange. The other theory about these circles refers to them as what's called Adam's calendar, which an author had proposed were like part of an extraterrestrial calendar built by the Anunnaki, 300,000 years ago. And, you do see them from the sky, and it could be some sort of either finished calendar, unfinished calendar. I don't know. The thing is they're very strange.
Oh, yeah.
And he zooms in and zooms out and scrolls around, and it's not like he has to draw something. Like, you can see them. He doesn't have to put arrows or point to them or anything. They're very, very clear. And now the other thing that he shows you is a serpent-shaped kind of stone mound. It's a little bit mysterious. Even he says he's not sure if it's natural or not natural.
Right.
There's a good chance because it's kind of on the edge of a ridge. So it is a very good chance that it's a natural formation. But he did point it out because of where it was, near the Nazca lines. And it did have sort of this odd serpenty shape.
Right.
So, but like I said, it's not like he was like, oh, look at this. This is what it is. He said, this looks kind of weird. it could be this, it might not be, you decide, but here's how you find it. So,
But how weird is it that we still find things near the Nazca lines?
I know that nobody knew about, because people just don't walk around out there all the time.
But they do fly over, and it's one of the most well-known wonders out there. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy to me that as many people that have flown over that looking for such things,
right,
and wanting to be the next one to find another one of the Nazca lines, and that would happen. I mean, that's just weird to me, man.
It is very strange.
It just seems like we would have found it all, and that's why it's like really cool to think that you can get on Google Earth. Mm-hmm. And go explore for yourself, man.
Yeah, and if you go to his YouTube channel, he has tons of videos that are similar to that, just where he's found weird things, and he'll always show you how to find it and show it to you on his computer, and it's really interesting to watch. All right, so let's move on.
Okay.
And this is a story about a Paleolithic village 12,800 years ago that may have been destroyed by a comet.
Ooh.
Yes,
I like the timeline.
Interesting. So it's an important archaeological site in Syria. It's called Abu Huraira. Abu Huraira, I think is how you say it. I'm not entirely sure, but it's known for its artifacts documenting like the early adoption of agriculture in the region. But they're claiming now that it may also be recognized as the only known human settlement to have been hit by a fragment of a comet. Now, this place was first excavated back in the 70s, like 72, 73, and they're just now doing like new analysis of it because, they have new technology now, clearly, than they had in the 70s. And so they took some of the soil samples and artifacts from the original excavation, and they did this new analysis, and they found tiny pieces of melt glass, which is like small bits of vaporized soil that solidified quickly after the explosion. Now, in order for that to happen, that just doesn't happen every day. It has to have temperatures ranging from like 1,720 degrees Celsius to 2,200 degrees Celsius. Mm-hmm. So you're basically only going to get that with something nuclear, maybe a lightning strike or a comet. That slams into. And, they did talk to this one researcher that said that was there when they dug back in 1973. And they said when they dug the site way back then, they'd noticed that there was heavy burning in one area. But of course, back then they weren't really thinking about comets or asteroids or anything like that. I guess they just didn't really put a lot of stock into that particular burned area. But they said now it turned out that the heavy burning was a result of this entire village just going up in smoke.
Oh my God.
Which is really, really crazy.
Yeah, and terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like you said, the timeline on it's really interesting because of everything we talk about with the whole cataclysm and, all the dark layer of everything.
Timeline's perfect, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, the timeline's perfect.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take that much because, if the comet don't get you, the cloud of dust that blocks out the sun and makes everything die will.
They did talk about how the temperature, the reason they say it has to be a comet is because the temperature was so high that they didn't think it looked like a lightning strike because that would make more magnetism that they didn't see, but that the temperature was so high that it would turn your car into a pool of metal in less than a minute.
Yeah, but I mean, the nuclear does that too, like when you get out there near India, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting.
The whole thing is just very strange, but it's cool that they have a discovery now where they're kind of throwing that timeline out there because you don't really see that often.
No, you're seeing it more and more though. I think basically with LiDAR and with everything that we've got now, Stacy and I watched, this amazing indie documentary on LiDAR. And, just like what they found with the Amazon, before it was a rainforest, it was a thriving civilization where there was nary a tree. I mean, it was freaking just amazing. Amazing. And the same thing with the Maya. I mean, the Maya was basically these just gigantic cities with smaller cities, and the jungle just recovered all of it, reclaimed it all. And we're finding more and more, but when they use the LiDAR, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, and I think when they first did that LiDAR, we even talked about it, how they found all the roads connecting all the little towns and just how more advanced and how large it was.
Yeah, that's what they're finding out the most.
Yeah.
They want to put it in a little box that our ancestors were stupid.
Right.
And they weren't. Even Neanderthals, they keep finding more and more things that they were very intelligent. So,
all right, so let's move on. And speaking of Neanderthals, I'll just touch this next story really quickly. It's funny that you mentioned that, but this is a discovery about an ancient bit of yarn that suggests that Neanderthals were not stupid like people say, that they were actually pretty crafty.
I swear we didn't plan that.
No, we really didn't. So this is just a new study in Scientific Reports that talks about a piece of yarn that they found that traces back to 41,000 to 52,000 years ago. And they were really excited about finding this in the first place because you don't find textile type artifacts very often. They're very rare because the fibers, they just don't last.
Right.
And so they found like this 6 millimeter long cord fragment, and they claim it could have been like a handle of a tool or some kind of a net or a bag. But when they dated it, it went back to the Neanderthals. And why this is so significant is because I know it's yarn, but yarn is not an easy thing to make. In order to make it back then, you had to harvest the inside of a very specific kind of tree. And there was a certain time that you could harvest this. It couldn't just be any time. You had to watch it and make sure you harvested it at the right particular time. Then you would take those, you would twist the fibers together, and then take those twisted fibers and twist them together again. I mean, it was very complex.
Right.
I mean, for something so simple, it's actually a very complex process. So just the fact that they knew how to harvest this, and they knew how to watch the trees, and they knew how to create it, and they knew how to use it, just proves that they weren't just hitting each other in the head with, rocks and dragging their knuckles around. They were actually pretty crafty people.
That's really cool, man.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to mention that because it kind of goes along with all these other stories we do about, we're pushing people back these many years, these many thousands of years. And, we have no idea about our history.
We really
not
don't.
Our real history.
I mean, we find out a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. The problem is they put too many definitive statements.
Right.
They close too many books, and they do not like to open them up and erase.
Exactly. All right, so we got a couple more discoveries here. There's a lot of discoveries, and people are just discovering things left and right. This one I thought was really exciting. This is about some artifacts found as a Norway ice patch melts.
Very cool.
And this is really awesome because, it's not awesome the ice patch is melting, but because it's revealing lost Viking era artifacts.
That's awesome, man.
Yes, and they're claiming that they are spectacular and perfectly preserved because they've been in the ice.
Yeah.
And so it's along this mountain pass at Lendbreen in Norway's mountainous central region. And these things first came to the attention of archaeologists back in 2011. And since then they just keep going back, and as the ice melts more and more, they just keep finding more and more things. Like the first thing they found was a woolen tunic, and it was dated to the 3rd or 4th century AD.
And again, rare because
it's fabric.
Yeah.
And it only survived because it was frozen.
Right.
They also, in the years since, found things like knitted mittens, leather shoes, arrows with their feathers still attached.
Wild.
Which is amazing. Now,
Wuhan virus?
No, I don't think they found that. So carbon dating of the finds reveals that this pass was in use by farmers and travelers for 1,000 years, from the Nordic Iron Age around 200 to 300 AD until it fell out of use in the 14th century, during the Black Death, speaking of plagues.
Right.
But the bulk of the finds date from around 1000 AD during the Viking era. And, there would have been a lot of trade at that time, a lot of, mobility going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, they call it a dream discovery because all these textiles are perfectly preserved. Right. It's so remarkable. Well, and I can just tell, the way they talk about it, I can just tell about their excitement.
Well, I mean, it's rare to find Viking stuff. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And, you would think it's not, that there would be so many longboats and all this, but there's not. Mm-hmm. It's just hard to find that stuff. And
it is. And they're also, it's not just little artifacts. They're also finding the remains of buildings and markers and, actual structures.
Let me present this to you, though, because it is kind of scary to think, oh, God, the ice is melting and, we're finding all this stuff. It's great, but the ice is melting. But that was 1,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And obviously the ice came.
Right.
After,
it wasn't there to begin with.
Right. So they were there. Mm-hmm.
and there was no freaking ice.
Right.
And then this ice came. So I'm just saying,
Right.
as far as cycles go on a planet that is millions and billions years old.
Right. It's bound to happen.
Right. So it's just I don't know if people put that part to that story.
Right. Like, I don't guess they think about it like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why all those things are frozen there.
Right.
Because they were there before.
Right.
The ice. All right. So I've got one more. This isn't so much of a discovery as it is like an invention. So this is about an MIT lab. It's MIT's Dream Lab. And they are building devices to hack your dreams. Yeah. So according to Adam Horowitz, who is a PhD student at MIT Media Lab's Fluid Interfaces Group.
Oh, that sounds
He's
nasty.
a dream lab researcher.
Yeah.
He claims that dreaming is really just thinking at night. And, since previous research has shown that dreams may contribute to things like memory consolidation and emotional regulation and overall mental health, I guess they decided they're gonna hack that. So what they've done is they've created a couple of devices.
Right.
One of them's called Dormio. It's a glove-like device that's meant to boost creativity by helping us tap into something called hypnagogia. And that's that semi-lucid state between wakefulness and sleep where, you get dreamy and your thoughts sort of expand. And, a lot of people get really good ideas at that time. And it's funny because this is not a new idea. Apparently, creators like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla and Salvador Dali, they claim that they have all taken naps while holding a steel ball in their hand so that when they were just about to fall asleep, they would drop it and the noise would kind of wake them up and put them in that state and they could be more creative.
It's amazing. You don't have better ideas of all the times you fell asleep with balls in your hand.
Balls of steel, too. Wow. So this Dormio glove, let's just move on with this. It has sensors wrapped around the user's wrist and fingers. And the device tracks your muscle tone, your heart rate, and your skin to identify the various stages of sleep. And when you slip into this hypnagogia state, it plays like a pre-recorded audio cue. And it's usually consisting of one word, and then it records anything the user might say in response. So they did like this experiment. It's like a 50-person experiment with it. And Horowitz, he found that the content of the audio cue successfully showed up in people's dreams. Like, for instance, if the word was tiger, users reported dreaming about a tiger, which is a little scary. But more than altering just the dream content, he also found that it improved users' performance creativity tasks. Like they felt like they were really onto something. So they have this other project that they're working on as well, and it's called BioEssence, and it's like a wearable scent diffuser that monitors heart rate and brainwaves and tracks the stages of sleep. And when you reach a particular stage, the stage that's associated with memory consolidation, the device releases like a preset scent that you associate, whoever's using it associates with a memory or some kind of behavior. And by smelling it during your sleep, then the subconscious mind strengthens that memory. So it's not like a auditory trigger, so it's less likely to wake you up.
Right.
But supposedly, I think her goal is to help people with some kind of trauma work that out while they're sleeping. So I don't know. It's very strange, these different projects that they're doing. It doesn't come without its controversy. There are other scientists that say things like hacking dreams is kind of based on the presumption that your subconscious is unintelligent, that it doesn't already know what it's doing. And for you to be arrogant enough to think that you can take that and work it however you want, is a dangerous thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen some things at work before where they will put a suggestion in there and they'll see if it's showing that and what that suggestion looks like when they're looking at these brainwaves or whatever. And they do that enough, they kind of can get a somewhat of an alphabet or somewhat of a picture. And
right.
Are you dreaming of sex or violence or whatever? And you could sort of decipher that once you know what it looks like.
Right.
And so. And I've seen things where it's just amazing, where it's like basically a rough version of the picture that someone is seeing in their head.
Right.
It's nuts.
It is. I mean, it's crazy because people don't really know. I mean, the brain's still so mysterious.
Dude, I tell you, I had a dream earlier, and I told Stacy all about it. But again, I have a lot of these dreams, these UFO dreams and stuff with planes, with large planes. And they'll come down. It's so real. Like it's the realest dreams I ever have. And these when the UFOs, that's the scariest because it's so real. Like I know I'm going to see this someday. And it's always like a neighborhood or something, and you're doing something normal, and then they just start coming, and I see them before everybody. And in this dream I had last night, it was a plane that I didn't even know existed, and I woke up and looked it up right then, and it was the exact number of the plane I looked at, and it wrecked. It was crazy. Just dreams are powerful, man. I wish you have to interpret yourself, because to interpret a dream by going to dreaminterpreter blah blah blah.com, and that's not good. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe 1 million people dreamed of a yellow rose and then they all peed their pants the next day. Maybe that means you're going to pee your pants the next day. I get that.
Right.
But I truly believe, I used the word subjective earlier. I do believe more so than any other thing that we talk about, dreams are very subjective. It's very much the user experience. And what does that mean to you?
Right. Like some people might see a crow in their dream and associate that with something bad. Whereas if I saw a crow in my dream, I would associate it with something pleasant because I really like crows.
Yeah, I would associate it with something coming to you, like a gift or something, because of the way the crows used to bring you stuff.
Works the same way with mediums. You know, they get specific symbols and pictures and stuff that mean something to them. And it just depends on who's delivering the information and, you know, who's receiving it.
Absolutely. And it's like we talk about with paranormal activity. We always, talk about, we call it the tells, like if you're playing poker, you could tell if somebody's bluffing or not when you're a professional poker player, because everybody has a different tell. It's not always the same, but you could tell what that is. And it's the same way when I was trained to detect lies. When I went through Wicklander and Zukowski to be able to do neurolinguistics. And in doing that, you basically get a baseline. And I could ask you questions I know are the truth, right? I know the answers you're going to give me is the truth. So what's your age? And you tell me 25, and I'm like, well, she's telling the truth, and this and that, and go through all this stuff. And that way, when you're not telling the truth, I can see certain things because I know how you behave when you're telling the truth.
Right.
I know you're comfortable. You got your hand on your other hand. I know you've got, your legs. This is a comfortable thing for you. So when you're lying, I always know. Not with you personally, but I always know when you're lying to me because whether you want to or not, you're going to do these things that I've already figured out years ago. And, that's the cool thing about that. And I can see how they can do that with dreams, and it's wrong because we don't have very many private things left. Right. And Stacy is really the choir on that because of all the kids and everything. She's not had that much privacy. And by that much, I mean hardly any. So, sometimes we're like, hey, we're going to have our private time. And, maybe she goes downstairs and I go upstairs or vice versa. And we're totally cool. Or my favorite thing, when we're alone in the same room. And we make an agreement that we're going to sit and chill, be on our devices or whatever. And we don't converse. We don't have to. No. But, hey, couples, you want to know our secret?
We ignore each other. No,
sometimes.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I don't know that this whole dream hacking thing is a good idea. They do claim that they're not trying to change dreams. They're just trying to offer, because I guess their goal is to make something that people can afford, to use on their own. They just want to be able to enhance your ability to expand your mind or something through dream state. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay, I'm under the opinion, and it's just my opinion, that anything you can use for bad, somebody gets wind of it that has a lot more money than you. They're going to buy it from you.
No morals.
Yeah, and everybody has a price. And, I hate to say that, but corporation-wise,
everybody does. So,
Yeah, even if the scientists didn't want to sell it.
exactly. I mean, the scientist will be dead.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just the way it works, and it'll be weaponized. And, because if you could control what somebody is dreaming, can you imagine what that would be worth to a retailer? Well, I want them to dream about this brand new Tesla, that they got to have it. And they dream about them driving around and some hot blonde gets in the car. And,
right.
So they dream that every night. And then they wake up, after like the 7th day and they're like, Jesus, I've got to get this Tesla.
Right.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And
it does.
I just think that's scary.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's probably not the best idea. All right, so let's get away from discoveries and inventions and let's talk about something cool that you can go look at on Twitter.
Dude, I did not send anything to her Patreon. I mean, it was free pictures.
So there's this friendly competition that has been going around. It was started by Yorkshire Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And since the lockdown's been going on, they started this curator battle. They call it's a hashtag curator battle. And what they've done is it's a whole series every week.
Missed that on the trending list.
Every week, they challenge other museums and institutions to come up with their whatever the theme is that week. Like one week it was the dullest item. One week it was the prettiest item. One week it was the deadliest object that they have in their museum. And they all post pictures of it and use the hashtag. So this past week, it was the creepiest objects.
Oh, cool.
So do yourself a favor, go to Twitter and just look up hashtag creepiest object. And look at some of that freaky stuff that the museums have in their collections. It is crazy. The Yorkshire Museum started this creepiest object one with their entry was a 3rd/4th century hair bun from the burial of a Roman lady, still with the pins in place.
Oh, wow.
An actual hair bun.
Wow.
So in response to the challenge, other institutions in England, as well as museums in Canada, France, Germany, and the United States, all proudly displayed their really crazy selections from their own archives. It included things like a petrified sheep's heart, punctuated by nails, a blood-soaked doll with a missing eye, a severed leg turned into a deformed creature, an executioner's mask, a decapitated cat plucking a harp. I don't know what museum that came from. A mermaid diorama. It looks really creepy. I saw that one. So, like weird artifacts, weird taxidermied creatures, just the weirdest things you could possibly imagine.
All right, stop for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say a decapitated cat plucking a harp?
I did say that. That's in this article. I didn't actually see that particular picture, but I think I'm going to go look for it.
Why do they have a blood-soaked baby doll with one eye?
I'm not sure. It just depends what kind of museum it's in and what the purpose of the display is. I mean, clearly it belonged to somebody. I mean, why does the Yorkshire Museum have a hair bun from a dead Roman lady?
I'm sorry, but hair bun from a dead Roman lady is vastly different than a decapitated cat plucking a harp.
I didn't have no idea what historical significance that, if it was just some sort of art installation or something, I don't know. But just Twitter, hashtag creepiest object. You'll thank me.
Wow.
Or you'll send me hate mail. It's one of the two.
Wow.
All right, so let's move on to this next story. This story was really hilarious. It's about a Reddit Ask Me Anything that was done with someone who bought a deserted town that's haunted, and he is currently quarantined there because, of the whole lockdown. So this is a man named Brent Underwood, and he's the owner of Cerro Gordo. It's like a 22-building town in California, and it's claimed to be haunted. And it's a 150-year-old deserted silver mining town. And he just basically bought the whole ghost town.
Right.
And now he's staying there. So once upon a time, this place was the home of California's most profitable silver mine. Mm-hmm. It produced $500,000 in silver. Like when you adjust for inflation, right. It's like $500,000. And, a lot of people came in. It was one of those where they had all the saloons and all the rough stuff going on, and always, yeah. Just one of those pop-up towns. And he claims that before he bought the property, he was a non-believer, firm skeptic, non-believer. But this is some of the stuff that came up in the Ask Me Anything. Somebody asked about, ghosts or sightings. And he said, since having it, he said a few times, I can't really explain what happened. And since you're in what they call a ghost town, you have to almost assume that a lot of stuff that goes on is because of the ghosts. And he plans on turning this whole town into a hospitality destination. That was before, everything got put on halt.
So does that not sound like the start to one of those cheesy teen movies that would come out around Halloween for
right.
You know what I mean? Like
right.
They bought a town, like, and then they got quarantined.
Well, what I thought was kind of interesting about it is Jeff Goldblum's been there. And he apparently does this Disney Plus show called The World According to Jeff Goldblum. And he went to this ghost town, I guess, to do one of his shows on it. So you can go to Disney Plus and look for that and get a close-up view of what this weird little abandoned town looks like. And so there's a thread.
2 saloons, 3 horse corrals, and then the sun and the wagon wheel. This place is haunted. It adds up. Sorry.
Well, this article, one of my favorite things about this article was not the article itself, but the first comment that was after the article was done being written, because it gives you a link for the thread where you can go read all the questions about.
She's a comment whore.
Oh, this one's great though. So the very first comment, I didn't even open the comments this time. I just happened to see this at the bottom of the page. So this guy writes, his comment is, clearly the ghosts are just machinations of an old man trying to scare people off the property so he can get to the silver. Fortunately, this can be fixed by hiring 4 meddling teenagers and their talking dog. Because it does sound like that.
Yes, it does.
But it is an interesting little Ask Me Anything. If you're interested in ghost towns, you can check that out, or check out the Jeff Goldblum show.
I'm surprised Zach didn't buy it first.
It must not have been that notoriously haunted.
Was it demonic enough?
I guess not. All right. So let's talk about this haunted Irish castle dating back to the 12th century.
Very cool.
It's called Portlet Castle.
Yes.
And it is on the market for $1.5 million.
Oh my God. That's a very reasonable price.
It is very reasonable. So it has 10 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms. Like every bedroom's an ensuite. It's amazing. It's a lakeside property, has 12 acres of land, and inside there's a minstrel's gallery with a 13th century floor-to-ceiling fireplace, a Victorian-style drawing room, and an Edwardian-style dining room. And there's even a 12th century dungeon room with high arched ceilings. And someone came in there recently and put in a commercial kitchen so that you can provide food for up to 300 people. So it's funny because this particular building, it was first built in like the 12th century, but then sometime in the 15th century, it was turned into like a 4-story tower house, but it incorporated the earlier structure and was just built up. And then more recently, they added 2 wings on. One was like a meeting place with laundry facilities, and the other one is like a music concert room for events. So somebody turned it into like a venue that you can also live in, or like a bed and breakfast type thing. But it is on the market, and it is haunted by the Blue Lady, who, you hear about the Blue Lady in several different places.
She needed the money.
Supposedly she's been seen by the owner floating around the staircase area of the Great Castle. And over the years, she's been spotted by a lot of the guests.
I've been doing some quick calculations. Mm-hmm. And we could get some people, some, sideshow off, some friends of ours, some Jeffs and people, and we could go in together and get this place. It's got 10 bedrooms.
Right.
It'd be like a cool little, turn it into a paranormal gimmick. And
oh, yeah, true.
That would just have a restaurant there,
meeting place.
Haunted sausages. It'd be like
it's in Ireland, but whatever.
It'd only be like $150,000 a piece.
That's true. You can always talk them down a little bit too.
$145,000 piece. So.
And it's haunted. It does say that this Portlet Castle is also reputed to have a ghost prisoner, known to appear down in the dungeon.
Of course it's in the dungeon.
Yes. So I looked at the pictures. There is a realty listing for it. I looked at the pictures. It's beautiful. And the dungeon has been converted into like a space with a big table in it, but I would definitely turn that back into a dungeon.
Oh yeah, you gotta have the
An
dungeon.
actual dungeon.
Yeah.
Just so the ghost down there felt more at home.
Right.
You know, he's probably walking around going, what is this?
Yeah, I don't understand what his comfort is.
All right, so let's talk about a couple of TV shows that are coming up. And I just wanted to mention this one because I thought it was funny. And it's A&E's Celebrity Ghost Stories.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's been out forever.
It was, but it hasn't been a continuous show. And it seems like they just brought it back. It's had a couple of episodes. And one of the most recent episodes had Terry Bradshaw on it.
Right.
And I kind of want to see the episode with Terry Bradshaw just because I find him to be really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently him and his wife live on a ranch, and they have a lot of really crazy things that happen there.
Yeah.
And so this particular...
all Cleveland fans.
This show has medium Kim Russo on it, and she's the one that takes the people back, you know, through their experiences or whatever. I know that the first episode had Ice-T on it. And then there was the Terry Bradshaw episode, and I think the most recent one had Paula Abdul, but they have a whole lineup this year of different celebrities.
Mom and Dad watch it.
Do they?
They particularly like the Ice-T episode.
Did they?
Mm-hmm, they
I
loved
haven't
it.
talked to them about it.
Yeah.
I know one of the people this season is Kelly Osbourne, though, which is a little bit cheating, I think, because her brother's a paranormal investigator.
Yeah, and her father's the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to talk about with her. I'm sure there's tons of haunted stuff going on here. But
I'm a bet.
this other show I want to talk about is one that I thought of you on.
Uh-oh.
And it's a new History Channel 5-part series called Lost Relics of the Knights Templar.
Oh.
And
hello, sexy.
so on the show is a man named Dan Jones. And
Freddie's uncle?
No. And he's taken to this secret location in the British countryside where he is speaking to 2 millionaires that supposedly have a huge collection of Knights Templar artifacts that they claim are genuine. Mm-hmm. We're talking about like over 60 different things. And they've been storing them over the past 10 years. Now, these millionaires their names are Carl Cookson and Hamilton White. And they've been friends for a long time. And so they wanted to show some of their collection to this Dan Jones
Hamilton
guy.
White sounds like he inherited his money and the other guy won a lottery.
Possibly. So Dan tells him, look, you can just take all these artifacts to some scientist and get them verified, or you can try and track down where they came from. And of course, they choose to track down where they came from. Surprise, surprise. So that's the concept of the show. And in the beginning, you just see a few different artifacts. There's like a cup that is used to offer drinks to a deity. There's like a box that houses sacred relics and a black chalice and a sword that has crosses on the blades, different things that really look like Knights Templar,
right?
Artifacts. And so in the first episode, the millionaires go to Portugal to this house in the south of France that was once owned by Carl Cookson. Mm-hmm. And he discovered that it had been a Knights Templar property.
Right.
And he didn't find that out until after he'd agreed to buy it. Then they go to this convent and castle complex in Portugal, and it's a place that the Nazis searched for Templar treasure but couldn't find any. And we're talking about Heinrich Himmler here.
Oh yeah,
was there looking for specific things, but they ended up not being able to find anything.
For those of you who don't know, the paranormal wing of the Nazi party.
Right. And so these millionaires claim that they've had these treasures for quite some time, but they're a little bit vague about where they actually procured them, but they claim that they are, like, there's no doubt about their authenticity. So I guess this 5-part series is all about possibly proving that some of these things are authentic.
It's like, hi, Hamilton. Hi.
But they do go through a lot of the, it's History Channel, so they're going to go through a lot of the history of the Knights Templar and a lot of the different locations.
Hamilton, where's the bathroom
like
at? Oh, it's down there next to the Amber Room.
The one that somebody's just keeping for themselves. Yeah, so I don't know. It could be an interesting show. You never know.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. All right, so I just have a couple more stories for you. You're going to love these.
I love them all.
So this first one's from Indonesia. And it's about these 2 people who were caught violating the quarantine. Now, you remember we had a story.
Well, that could have went anywhere.
We had a story recently about the guys that are protecting the village that dressed like the Pokong, remember, the ghosts? All right, this is sort of the same general area. And what happened, Central Java, I guess is what I said last time. And the authorities were concerned over residents of nearby cities that were like returning to their native villages because they were afraid that the cities would be put on lockdown and they didn't want to be locked down. So they were returning back to all their like little villages and stuff. And so the authorities there were like, if you come back here, you need to quarantine for 14 days, self-quarantine for 14 days. And they found out about these two individuals that decided that they were not going to do that. And they claimed that if you didn't self-quarantine, they were going to force you to. And the quote was, if need be, they should be locked inside in a haunted house if necessary. So when they found out these two people were breaking quarantine, that's exactly what they did. They took them into an abandoned haunted house. It's an abandoned residence that's located in the middle of a rice field, and it's considered by the villagers in the area to be the home of sinister spirits. So it's not certain how long they're going to be kept inside the haunted house. I'm assuming at least 14 days, but they will be provided food and other necessities, you know, during the course of their stay. But because they wouldn't self-isolate, they locked them in this abandoned house that's supposed to be haunted, and they have to stay there constantly
again
for 2 weeks.
Another movie. Can we just put cameras in there? Can you imagine how much the Indonesian government can make?
I mean, that's amazing.
I would pay $9.99 like, to watch it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, just
you?
to live cam those people for 2 weeks in this haunted house. I mean, I don't know. There was a picture on this article, and I don't know if the picture is the actual house. It looked pretty creepy. It might have just been a stock photo, but just the fact that everybody in that whole area thinks that house is haunted, you know something's going on there.
Oh yeah.
And it's abandoned, so it can't be nice. So I tell you what, you break quarantine in Indonesia, you're gonna pay for
those
it.
Indonesian ghosts are never nice. Like in my studies, there's never like that quaint little haunted house there. It's always like some weird named, like it comes and sucks your eyeballs out at 3 a.m. You know, or like that one we've been seeing so much recently that's body falls apart. Like,
right. It when it wants to fly, it just tears its torso off its legs and takes off.
And for some reason, out of nowhere, we've seen that like 50 times.
I know. That's probably a sign. You know, we do watch for signs.
We do.
So, all right, one more story.
Okay.
This is about Jose Canseco.
Oh God.
Now, I remember we talked a while back. It's been a while. About him, advertising that you could go Bigfoot hunting with him. Do you remember this? Like he tweets really weird stuff.
Just bring an 8-ball, not the kind you play baseball with.
Well, he used to tweet stuff about how the aliens have been trying to teach us how to time travel, and we just can't do it because our body composition's not proper. And they try to do it with animals, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think that's what happens to all those cattle? They're trying to time travel with the cattle, and it rips their anuses out.
There's another one. What do you think their butt comes out?
So recently, he tweeted that he was wondering if Bigfoot or aliens can get the coronavirus, and he needs to know because he's had contact with them, and
yes, Jose.
He's worried.
Yes, Jose, they can, and it's much worse than you've ever imagined. Mm-hmm. In fact, it goes back in time and uncorks bats. It's crazy. I don't know.
Oh, so yes, very interesting. If you're already on Twitter looking up the hashtag creepiest object, you just go give Jose Canseco a follow.
Yeah, do that.
Get your giggles.
Get your giggle on, Jose Canseco.
All right, so that is all of my news.
Well, that was quite a trip.
It was.
What an episode this has been. I think this has been a Jolly Roger happy time. It's just been good. A Bobby Dazzler.
A Bobby Dazzler.
I've had a great time.
Yes, me too.
It's really fun stuff. Why aren't they all like this?
I don't know, because there isn't some...
Dude, you're supposed to say, because they are.
Oh, because they are?
All right. We'll leave it at that. Hey, you know what? For my lovely wife, Stacy, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.